In the quiet vastness of space, far beyond the light pollution of Earth's glow, a single transmission echoed out into the cold. It was simple and haunting, a three-word message that rippled through every frequency in the known galaxy. We are coming. This was the day humanity was officially acknowledged, not just by its neighboring star systems, but by the entire galactic concord, the immense council of allied species that governed most of the known universe. Their response was immediate and filled with alarm. The Concord had always known about humans, of course. They were a minor anomaly, a curious species that had, against all odds, managed to escape its planetary cradle without any assistance. For years, humans had been considered too primitive, too small a threat to worry about. That was until now. Chapter 1. Discovery of the Fractured Heart. It all began with the ISS Fractured Heart, an unassuming human cargo vessel bound for the distant mining colonies near the asteroid belt of Gliese 581. Commanded by a man known only as Captain Singh, it carried a small crew, some research equipment, and a strange, unregistered artifact of Earth's past. This artifact, discovered in an ancient dig in the deserts of Egypt, had been ignored as a historical curiosity by scientists for decades until its recent activation. The artifact was something that no one quite understood, and yet it pulsed with a strange energy that resonated with technologies far beyond human comprehension. When the Fractured Heart entered the system of Gliese 581, a disaster struck. The artifact activated, releasing a signal that wasn't just heard, it was felt. Every Concord species, every sentient creature tuned to the galactic frequencies, felt an overwhelming surge of dread and despair as the artifact's signal saturated the universe. In a single, horrifying moment, humanity was no longer a mystery. It was a nightmare. Galactic Concord forces mobilized almost immediately. They called it the Containment Protocol. For decades, Concord historians had speculated on the existence of forgotten terrors from ancient times, beings or technologies so dangerous that even the galaxy's oldest species dared not disturb them. It was thought that humans had stumbled upon one of these terrors and that it had now fused with their civilization, making them a species with potential for unimaginable destruction. But by the time the Concord arrived at Gliese 581, it was too late. The Fractured Heart had vanished, and in its place was only a single human distress signal, looping ominously. The message was distorted, crackling with static, but the words were clear. For every friend you've betrayed, every world you've conquered, and every race you've subjugated, know that humanity remembers. We are coming. Chapter 2. The first strike. While the galaxy reeled from the signal's impact, the human response was swift and brutal. No one knew where it had come from, but an armada appeared along the Concord's borders. Massive, dark ships brimming with the unmistakable energy signature of the artifact. And yet, they weren't completely human. These vessels, crafted with impossible technology, seemed to pulse with the same ancient dread the artifact had radiated. The Concord attempted diplomacy. Their ambassadors reached out, offering to open negotiations, to listen to humanity's grievances. They never got a reply. Instead, the human ships advanced, and where they passed, whole planets darkened. Concord fleets scrambled to respond, meeting the humans at a border world called Solzaron Prime. The first battle was a massacre. The Concord's finest fleet was torn to pieces, their weapons rendered ineffective against the strange, seemingly indestructible human vessels. It wasn't just the firepower that overwhelmed them. It was the precision, the merciless focus with which the humans fought. It was as though the human armada had studied each species' weaknesses, exploited every tactical flaw, and knew the limitations of every Concord ship as though they built them themselves. When the Concord finally pulled back from Solzaron Prime, they left a planet scorched and lifeless. They had no choice but to accept the devastating reality. Humanity wasn't just a nuisance anymore. It was an existential threat. Chapter 3. The dark secret of humanity. Desperate for answers, the Concord turned to their ancient archives, hoping to understand what had driven humans to this level of brutality. They uncovered a chilling revelation, a forgotten document, an ancient warning from millennia ago that spoke of a species from a forbidden quadrant that could harness their darkest emotions as weapons. According to the document, the species known as humans were unique in their capacity for memory, not personal memory, but generational memory. They could inherit pain, hold on to ancient grudges, and reignite fires of vengeance. Hat should have burned out eons ago. Unlike other species, humans didn't just remember, they relived their suffering, passing it down like a genetic curse. And in the wake of Concord expansion and subjugation, humans had amassed grievances unlike any other species. One name in particular kept appearing in the archives, the Children of Ash. It was an ancient reference, lost to time, describing the offspring of species devastated by the Concord's expansion. Over countless cycles, the Concord had assimilated and, in many cases, destroyed entire worlds to maintain their control. But humans were different. They were the Children of Ash reborn, with the blood of the past civilizations flowing in their veins. And now they were weaponizing that history. Humanity's rage had become more than a mere concept. It was a source of power, one amplified by the artifact. This historical curiosity wasn't an ancient relic. It was a conduit, a living relic from an ancient civilization that had imbued it with the power to channel the collective rage of its fallen people. And humanity had just unlocked it. Chapter 4. The Alliance of Shadows. In the wake of humanity's terrifying rise, a new faction emerged within the Concord itself, members who believed that humanity's fury was justified, that the galaxy needed to reckon with its dark past. These rebels, calling themselves the Shadows, began to break away from the Concord, pledging loyalty to humanity, convinced that the only path forward was to atone for the sins of the past. The Shadows reached out to the human armada, their emissaries pleading for mercy. But humanity's response was cold, calculating. Captain Singh, now transformed into a figure of galactic legend, met with the Shadow leaders aboard his flagship, Vengeance Eternal. His face, hardened by the cosmic battles he'd fought and the rage he harbored, bore the weight of humanity's collective pain. "We don't seek alliances," Singh said with steely resolve. "We are the reckoning. Those who betrayed us will burn, and the rest will witness the birth of a new era." But among the Shadow emissaries was a figure known only as Alara. She was an empath, and as she touched Singh's hand, she sensed something more than vengeance. She felt the anguish of entire worlds and the desperate longing for justice. She offered Singh a challenge, a chance to confront the Concord directly, without bloodshed. Singh's reply was swift: "We will give the Concord a single chance to surrender unconditionally. If they refuse, the galaxy will remember this day as the beginning of their end." Chapter 5. The Concord's Last Stand. The Concord, backed into a corner, prepared for an unprecedented assault on Earth. Every weapon in their arsenal, every fleet in their control, was summoned for this final battle. They called it Operation Dawnfall, and it was humanity's ultimate test. If Earth fell, the galaxy would be safe once more. But if humanity triumphed, the Concord's centuries-long reign would come to an end. As Concord fleets prepared to attack Earth, Captain Singh led his armada in a flanking maneuver, setting a trap for the incoming forces. The two armadas met over the red sands of Mars, a battlefield illuminated by the glow of dying stars and relentless laser fire. Each moment felt eternal, the screams of ships and soldiers echoing across the system. Then, at the peak of the battle, Earth's moon went dark, and another transmission echoed through the stars, sending chills down every soldier's spine. This is just the beginning. But before the words could be fully processed, a colossal ship emerged from the shadow of the moon. A craft larger than any previously recorded, bearing an energy signature that dwarfed even the artifact. It was a ship humanity hadn't built, one that had remained dormant beneath Earth's surface for millennia, unknown even to the humans who now piloted it. As the Concord fleets faltered, the ship began to glow with an unearthly, blinding light. The colossal ship opened fire, a beam of energy splitting the darkness, obliterating entire fleets as it surged forward. Humanity had become more than a nightmare, they had become the reckoning. The ship from beneath Earth's surface was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its size and power were matched only by its age, an artifact of some forgotten civilization that had somehow become bound to humanity's fate. It was named the Sovereign, and when it appeared, every system across the galaxy felt its presence. It was as if the ship itself was an extension of human will, forged from the very grief and rage that had ignited humanity's vengeful march across the stars. Chapter 6. The Rise of the Sovereign. The Sovereign's appearance in Earth's orbit was no accident. Its emergence was the culmination of forces beyond simple technology. The artifact humanity had unwittingly awakened was not merely a weapon but a key, a link to this ancient vessel. Buried deep within Earth's mantle for eons, the Sovereign had remained hidden until humanity had unlocked the signal, setting it free. The vessel radiated with energy that seemed almost alive, an alien design but imbued with a peculiar familiarity. Its hull was composed of metal that absorbed light yet reflected the universe like a dark mirror. The Concord forces facing it felt their minds straining under the weight of the ship's presence, a pressure unlike anything they had ever experienced. Even the most advanced minds among the Concord species felt something they thought themselves incapable of feeling: fear. Captain Singh, aboard Vengeance Eternal, watched from a distance as the Sovereign powered up. Its core flared with a molten glow, pulsing with every emotion humanity had ever bottled up over countless generations. Every betrayal, every forgotten atrocity, every oppressed cry for justice. Humanity has been scorned for too long, Singh declared to his crew, his voice a mix of awe and resolve as he watched the colossal ship prepare for battle. We have been wronged, dismissed, oppressed. But today, we have become the judgment. We will be heard across the stars. Chapter 7. The Battle for the Concord. The Concord rallied every remaining fleet in a desperate bid to stop humanity's relentless assault. Their ships descended upon the solar system in numbers that blotted out the stars, the largest gathering of forces the galaxy had ever witnessed. This was the Concord's last stand, a unified defense of every allied species against humanity's wrath. As the fleets converged near Mars, humanity's forces surged forward, led by the Sovereign. The colossal vessel became a dark sun over the battlefield, its gravitational pull distorting space-time itself. Concord ships struggled to maintain formation as its energy grew, ripping smaller ships apart with sheer force. The battle that unfolded was a cataclysm. Ships exploded into shrapnel, streaking across the void like dying meteors. Beams of pure energy cut through space, and colossal explosions painted the darkness in crimson hues. The Sovereign unleashed a weapon that had not been seen in eons, a weapon not of destruction but of despair. Wherever its light touched, Concord soldiers fell silent, their minds overwhelmed by visions of humanity's history, a nightmare of suffering and loss spanning centuries. The screams of Earth's past, the horrors of ancient wars, and the oppressive weight of extinction filled their consciousness. They saw Earth's empires rise and fall, each soaked in blood, each era etched with a resilient, unbreakable will. Humanity's pain, its defiance, its memory, flooded the minds of alien soldiers who could not comprehend such intense emotions. The Sovereign projected humanity's collective history onto the galaxy, not as a plea, but as a declaration. Every soldier who came close enough felt as though they had lived through humanity's hardships, and many lost the will to fight. Concord ships fell out of formation, some even turning back, unwilling to face the force that humanity had become. Chapter 8. The Concord's surrender. As the battle wore on, it became clear to the Concord that they were fighting a losing battle. For every ship they destroyed, the Sovereign unleashed another wave of psychological and physical devastation, draining their resources and morale. Fleet commanders across the Concord began transmitting messages of surrender. And on the Concord's capital world, Arcturus Prime, the High Council convened in a panicked emergency session. For centuries, the Concord had been the undisputed ruler of the galaxy, unchallenged in its dominance. They had forgotten what it was to be at the mercy of another power, forgotten the humility of survival and the bitter taste of defeat. But now, as humanity's wrath consumed them, they faced an ultimatum. The message came from Captain Singh himself, broadcast across every screen on Arcturus Prime. You who have ruled without compassion, you who have oppressed without remorse, today, you answer to us. Surrender unconditionally, or face the obliteration of everything you hold dear. The council hesitated, voices of dissent mingling with fear and desperation. Some members argued for continuing the fight, others called for surrender. But as the Sovereign's approach became imminent, their will crumbled. With a reluctant admission of defeat, the Concord sent out a single, desperate transmission to humanity. We surrender. The declaration rippled across the galaxy, the echoes of defeat heard in every colony and outpost. For the first time in recorded history, the Concord had fallen, brought to its knees not by technology or military might, but by a species they had dismissed as primitive, unimportant. Chapter 9. The Reckoning After the Surrender. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity dismantled the Concord's empire. Humans took control of former Concord territories, freeing planets and species that had long suffered under oppressive rule. But humanity's victory was not one of conquest. It was one of liberation. They systematically broke apart the power structures that had kept the Concord in control, granting self-governance to countless worlds. However, they made one thing clear: the galaxy would never forget what happened here. Humanity declared itself a guardian, a species that would ensure the Concord never rose again in the same form. They left behind warnings on every major planet, holographic recordings of the Sovereign hovering ominously in the skies as a reminder of the consequences of tyranny. Humanity became a myth, a living cautionary tale, and the galaxy's most respected and feared power. In time, the Shadows, the faction that had once split from the Concord to side with humanity, became the architects of a new galactic alliance. This new order was based not on dominance, but on cooperation and mutual respect. And though humanity did not demand control, their influence was always felt. They had become a presence, an idea, something greater than just a species, a concept of justice tempered with the memory of what they had endured. Epilogue. The Nightmare's legacy years passed, and stories of the Sovereign and humanity's wrath grew into legends. In every corner of the galaxy, children would listen to the tale of the day humanity became the galaxy's worst nightmare. A story meant to instill fear in those who would seek to oppress. But on a distant outpost, hidden in the shadow of a forgotten moon, a small artifact lay buried, dormant and silent. Unknown to most, this relic had been taken from Earth centuries ago and held a different power, a dormant connection, a piece of humanity's history that had yet to be unlocked. One night, as the stars drifted overhead, the artifact pulsed to life. It was faint, barely perceptible, but its resonance reached out across the stars, carrying a message that only a few would ever hear. This is not the end. And in that quiet pulse, a new warning began to ripple through the galaxy, a whispered reminder of humanity's presence, and a chilling reminder that, should the galaxy ever forget the lesson it had learned, the nightmare might one day rise again.